Greetings and welcome to the Stoic Gamer podcast. My name's Michael Bolton. In this podcast, I talk to players at all different levels of the hobby about their experience going to competitive events, whether it's their first time or whether they're a seasoned old timer like myself. I discuss the events we're going to, I discuss the events we've been to, and I talk about everything from army building, rules queries, happenings on the table to hotel disasters and culinary and gastronomic accidents, all part of the hobby and all part of visiting different parts of the country and the world as part of our fantastic 40k hobby. If you like this kind of content and you want to hear more, please let me know. If it's on YouTube, please just leave something in the comments. I'll always get back to you if I can. And if you're listening on any other kind of platform such as Spotify, do leave me a message. I can get back. Greetings, Stoic Gamers. I am feeling very stoic today. I have just come back from the Glasshammer Super Major in Birmingham, 160 odd players, and I only won one game. I'm having to be stoic. Having said that, I took a new list, a new Necron's Awakened Dynasty list, which I had no repetitions with. So I suppose I shouldn't be expecting a great deal. But at the end of this podcast, I'll explain why I think I had a bit of a rough ride at the event, and I'll tell you all about it. But overall, the event was great. My friend Neil came to stay the night before. We had far too many bottles of red wine and ended up arriving late at the event, just 5 minutes late. There's a story to that. In fact, I recorded something on the day. Let's go to that now. Here I am at the Glasshammer GT in Birmingham. It's 9:30. The game should have started at 9. No opponent. I get a bye, so I get 20 points, which is good. But look around. Busy, busy, busy. 166 players, minus 1, 165 players. So I don't know whether to feel happy about it or sad. Bad news is that if I get a bye, I get 20 points and I may end up playing one of the top players in the second round. Just to compound everything, I've also forgotten one of my models. So I'm going to be asking around later if anybody has got a Locust Lord that I can use or something I can proxy in. It's not going well so far. What a day. So after all of that, I spend the first game, 3 hours or so, wandering around, saying hello to people, which was brilliant because the tables were set up individually. So unlike most events, which is a long row of tables, I could actually walk between the tables, have a look at the models, talk to the players, many of which I knew and some of which deigned to talk to me, which was quite exciting as well. So that was great. Went on to lunchtime, met up again with Neil, had a nice burger. They had a very nice burger van outside, very nice burger. Shropshire beef on a brioche bun. Very nice. So we had that, and then we got into my first game. Now, this is the first game with my new list, and I run into the guy who is eventually going to come second with another Necron list. This Necron list, though, is very skew indeed. He's got 4 Catans, plus another Catan if you count the Tesseract Arc as a Catan. Then 3 units of Death Marks, a couple of Hexmark destroyers for doing the missions. That's it. I lost that one 20-0. Didn't kill a model. Absolutely thrashed. That's probably why he went on to come second in the whole event. But what did I learn? Lots. I'll get into that at the end. I'm not going to make this a long podcast. I'm going to rattle through as quickly as I can because I think I want to just tell you what my feelings were. Second game I played, which is the third game, was against World Eaters. I've played World Eaters before and they are on you like it's going out of fashion. So Neil and I both agreed that I was pretty well stuffed before we started. as it happened, I won. He had lots of units of 3 8-bounds. He had Angron, he had Invocatus, he had a Rhino with some Berserkers in it, and he had some Chaos Spawn. All well and good. Typical World Eaters came rattling towards me, and guess what? I shot some up, I ran away from others, and I actually beat up some of it. Now, what I discovered is that you can shoot the 8-bound. So my Immortals shot, backed up, shot again, backed up, got caught by the Berserkers because of their blood surge coming towards me every time I shot them, and they killed all of me but one. Then I was able to back off and then finish them off with shooting. So then I managed to get most of my unit back through reanimation. In the centre of the field, what happened? He charged in with 2 units of 3 8-bound and Invocatus, and ran into a unit of Lichguard, Illuminors, Saraz, and a unit of Immortals. After a couple of rounds, all 8 of them were dead, and Invocatus died the next round to a stabby from Illuminor. That next round, Angron was in a position to charge me, so I shot him with 3 of my newly arriving from reserve Locust Heavy Destroyers. He failed all of his 4-up invulnerables and died on the spot. So all good, everybody happy. That was on turn 2. Turn 3, of course, Angron came back, but but by then it was a little bit too late, and I had the initiative, and I won that game. Won that game 16-4. I lost to Lenny, the skewy Necron player, 20-0, obviously. And then Sunday morning, went back to face Scott with Grey Knights. Grey Knights, strike team, 10-man unit of Terminators, 2 5-man unit of Terminators, 3 Knights. I think that's it. Each of the he had Lord Drago with the 10-man squad, and he had a Sorcerer with both of the 5-man squads. This was going to be difficult. They're going to bounce around, and it was going to be difficult for me to do anything. I thought I was doing okay. I killed 1 knight, okay, and he's only got 7 units, remember, so if I kill 2 or 3, it's difficult for him to start to score. He gets 1 knight damaged down to about 5 wounds, and so decides just to throw it into my line. So this thing arrives on my objective, runs through, because it's got fly, so it flew over my scarab screen, straight into my my own objective. I bring on my 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers, shoot at it on turn 3, hit it, wound it. He makes all 3 4-up saves. That happens on turn 4 and turn 5. So I shoot 9 shots at it, doing 6 9s, 72 wounds, 54 wounds, and nothing happens. So he was very apologetic for making all his saves. So he should be. It was a great game. I lost it 15-5. Issues around me not knowing what happened. Also, his army had these 3 4-up save knights and a unit of 10 Terminators, hugely difficult to kill. Good game, great opponent, no problems. I've only won 1 game now, really. I got to buy the first round, but I'm on to last game, hoping I can do anything. Now I fight a nice guy who I fought before called Magic. And Magic's not his real name. It just sounds like Magic, and I think he's Polish, so I think it might be Polish or some other Eastern European. And forgive me, Magic, I do hope if you see this that you forgive me for that. But he had an Eldari list, but again, skew list. He had a Wraith Knight, the Incarn, the Avatar, 3 units of Warp Spiders, a couple of units of this and that, and not much else. And again, couldn't kill the big stuff. They just killed me willy-nilly, and I got caught out a couple of times with that one because I'd assumed that the Wraith Knight had an invulnerable save. It didn't. I didn't know that till after the game. Perhaps Magic should have told me that, but that's my fault for not knowing the opponent's list. So when my 3 Locust Heavy Destroyers arrived from reserve, I could have shot that. Likelihood with hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s to wound. The likelihood is I'd have probably done 18 wounds to it, but I didn't because I thought it had an invulnerable save. I'd been scarred by shooting at Catans and Nemesis Knights in the last 2 games, so I shot at the Incarn and did absolutely nothing because the one that got through, he changed with his dice of fate, so did no wounds, and then abruptly died to a lot of shooting from the Wraith Knight with his blooming big cannons. So all in all, an error on my part, yes, but interesting. So I come away from the event with a bye, 20 points, whoopee, and then with a win at 16 points against World Eaters, whoopee, and then 3 losses, 20-0, 15-5 and 16-4. Okay. So what am I thinking about this? Firstly, I didn't have enough reps. There were some units in my army that I really didn't know how to use properly. Scarabs. I've got 2 units of 3. They do have an OC of 1 if they're within 6 of a cryptic. So there's a chance I can use them to do actions and things. And I did that once against Scott and his Grey Knights when I was able to advance them up the flank for containment and move a cryptic within 6 inches. So there is utility there. But in terms of move blocking and screening, I didn't use them very well at all. Second thing I learned was I don't know how to use rapid ingress properly. Rapid ingress should be great. I've got 2 units of Scorpec Destroyers, 3 Scorpec Destroyers and a Lord in each, one of them with a 4-up feel no pain, hit like a train. Often I was unable to get them to do the damage they should have done. Rapid ingress, even from strategic reserve coming on at the side, should be useful. I'm struggling to get my head around how it works. So that's something else. What else? Reactive rules. All those armies had something they could do. So when I look at the Necrons of Lenny, he could pick up 4 units. And remember, he hardly had any units in his army. He could pick up 4 units at the end of his turn because it's Hypocrite Legion and bring them back on again the following turn. Looking at the Grey Knights, similar. Even better because they have the Mists of Deimos, so that if you move within 9 inches of a unit, he just picks it up and moves it into strategic reserve. Better than that, he can then rapid ingress it the same turn. Amazing. So all of those things count. And then Eldari, guess what? Phantasm. Of course they have. So not only does everything in his army move ridiculously fast, 24 inches for his warp spiders, for example, but every turn, one of them disappears and runs away. These reactive moves, these end of term moves, these ability to move around out of sequence are incredibly powerful. I know they are. I've used Hypercrypt. I know that, but still really powerful. So those are the armies, those are the games, all enjoyable, except for getting spanked by the Necrons. There was nothing I could do. It was an unhappy game, but I was pleased to see that Lenny went on to do really, really well and just came second to Josh Roberts with his Chaos Space Marines. What else then? It didn't occur to me at the time, but now I look back and I've reflected a little bit. The one army that was, for me, a normal kind of army, the World Eaters, I beat. It had a couple of vehicles. It had some combat stuff. We've had all combat stuff because it didn't shoot anything. But it was an army. It looked like an army. The other 3 armies I fought did not look like armies. They look like, I'm going to take these massive pieces that nobody can kill, then I'm going to move them about so that they can do all the damage they like. The Tesseract Arc in Lenny's army, for example, has a strat to drop in 3 inches away. The Catans can no longer use it, but the Tesseract Arc can. It's about 18 inches tall, so it looks over all of the terrain. Where you think you're safe behind a wall in a ruin, you're not, because all of a sudden this thing drops in 3 inches away, can see over the wall into the terrain and shoots you to bits, shoots you to smithereens. There is nowhere to hide. Terrain may as well not be there if you're fighting the Tesseract Arc. You can be behind it, yeah, don't get me wrong, but if you're in it, where you usually are, you're usually an inch away from a wall, hiding from any normal kind of shooting. That can happen. So my big learning from this was all the armies that beat me were skew lists. Alderi with 3 massive characters that were costing 1,200 of his points. Lenny, 4 Catans, which would be, I haven't calculated it, but it would easily be 1,300 points for that, 1,200 anyway. Plus the Tesseract Arc, which is 4 up invulnerable, save, toughness 12, 20 odd wounds. Difficult to kill. Then there was the Grey Knights, 10 Terminators with Drago, with all the Terminator saves and the Apothecaries to bring people back. 3 Nemesis Knights with a 4 up invulnerable save. Remarkably tough to get down. So, my question to you, if you're interested in answering, please do. I've got an army that will fight a normal army. If I'm fighting an army with some infantry, some tanks, some fast movers, I'm okay. I think I can manage those. Is the game going along the way of being Monster Mash? Is it likely to have all of these big stuff that nobody can kill or can find it hard to kill? Is that the way? It's not the way that the winning army was positioned. Josh Roberts' army, Chaos Space Marines, it was almost an MSU list with Marines. So is it that big, hard to kill units are easier for less capable players to play and do well with? But the good players are going to use more challenging finesse lists that require some serious amounts of practice and skill. I don't know the answer to that. I'll put it out there for you. But for me, I am feeling that I have a nice list, toolbox list, can do a bit of anything. But if I run into 3 skew lists with big monsters, I'm in trouble. Next question. Was I just unlucky to fight 3 lists with unkillable units in them? Or is that likely to be the shape of things to come? If I was unlucky, I'm sticking with my list. I might tweak a little bit here and there. I found the Scarabs not great. I found 1 unit of Scorpec Destroyers is probably enough, so that probably frees up a couple of 100 points. But even then, I have no idea what to replace, what to use for that 200 points. So I'm still confused about that. But I'm not sure, looking at the lists at the GT, if there was a lot of monsters, a lot of the demon lists, unlike Neil, who's gone MSU with his demons, a lot of the demon lists had a lot of monsters in them. There were a lot of Tyranids with a lot of monsters. There was every demon list, for example, had a great unclean one in it because obviously he sits an objective and can't be killed, just like the monsters I fought. So do we need to start thinking about killing hard to kill things, or have I just been unlucky? I don't know the answer to that. And I will be contemplating it as I plan for my next event. Now, Glasshammer GT was really good. The event was great. The food vans were nice. A bit of a long queue, but there was only 1 van and 160 people, so it was going to be that way. But I think everybody got to eat, and the food was very good. The layout of the hall was great. Individual tables, you could walk around them. There was plenty of room. The acoustics were cool. The games I had no problem with. The WTC differential scoring worked very well. There was no issue with the new rules. And I'd heard lots of people moaning about this beforehand, saying, oh, it's going to be terrible because nobody will know how the rules work. Well, actually, it wasn't an issue. Everybody got along fine. I'm not aware of any big issues. The only thing that they made a house rule about was, I think, that the Archon could only use his special rule if he was the warlord, not every Archon in a Chukari list. That's it. Comments on what I've said. Are big monsters going to be a stat check for adequate players in the future? Was I unlucky to fight 3 lists with minimal unkillable units in them? Or is that the way we're going to go? Please explain to me how to use rapid ingress and what I can do with my scarabs that is going to be useful, or I'm getting rid of them. And I think, happy listener, that is all. I'm going to be putting in the description below. I'm going to be putting a description and a link to Glasshammer GT's site, because they are doing another GT in Wolverhampton at the end of August, beginning of September. I think it's the 31st and 1st or something like that. I'd recommend it. I'm going to go for 2 reasons. Firstly, it's 20 minutes from where I live. And secondly, I feel one ought to support one's local friendly gaming shop, and Glasshammer have always been really friendly to me and helpful. So that's what I'm going to do. If anybody wants to join me there, I'll be the guy in the Cold Steel Mercs top with the Heartless written on the back, probably towards the bottom tables. But do come and say hello. In the meantime, see you on the ice.